Gen Z and 9/11. One, I think people are underrating the degree to which what has happened is intelligent people everywhere are questioning 9/11. What they're not doing is publicly acknowledging that they're questioning it, that is still dangerous enough in most circles.
This is true.
That you're not hearing it as much as you would normally be hearing it based on the amount of skepticism that is now general on this topic. But the second thing is, think about what you just did to Gen Z. You just flat out told them that men could become women magically.
Yeah, they're also buying into that a lot less than their millennial counterparts.
Right. The point is, you have now, in a weird way, inoculated them against your own bullshit by giving them something so ridiculous and obviously wrong that they now understand that it doesn't matter how punished you'll be for departing from the mainstream consensus, that the mainstream consensus is at least sometimes just total crap. A couple things about Gen Z and
Welcome to the JJ Carrell Show. Will Gen Z and Gen Alpha rescue the United States of America? And I believe they will. I believe they are our last hope, to be quite honest with you. My generation, the boomers above me, absolutely are not there. They created this. My generation just sat back and kind of took it because we kind of got a little older and we just kind of took in. The millennials came in and they're a bunch of mentally retarded people. And then Gen Z. How do I know Gen Z is going to do this? Because Gen Z is all around me. Because I have a son that is at the very end of Gen Z going into Gen Alpha. I listen to these young boys and young girls talk about politics, talk about social issues. I sit back, I don't say anything. I coach basketball, I coach football, I do all this stuff. I take my son everywhere, pick up his friends, and I just listen. And I listen to what they talk about. Of course, they talk about girls, and they talk about they're giggling, and the girls are giggling, and they're laughing, having fun. But at the same time, they have pretty incredible conversations about men that can have babies, transgenderism, the Catholic Church, Jesus Christ. They're going to change everything. Why? Because they have witnessed the destruction of their older brothers and sisters. They've seen their mothers and fathers divorced, completely unhappy, trying to, quote, find themselves. And they're looking at that and they're going, there's no God. There's no divine providence in anyone's life. There is no natural order. Even if they can't articulate this, they feel it. There's no natural order. Why are two dudes kissing each other? That's gross. It's unappealing. And it freaks these kids out. Why are there two women kissing? Why is every commercial interracial couples? Why now in the commercials, the predominant majority race in America is not even represented? Are there any white people in America anymore? You wouldn't know that in commercials. So these young generation, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, are looking at the insanity and they see it makes no sense. And it frightens them, it concerns them, it enrages them. And know what they do, which is the greatest thing they do? They mock the older generation. They just mock them. And if you really want to know how powerful this next two generations are going to be, and you want to understand the seismic shift in our culture, all you have to do is look at one issue, just one, and that is Israel and Jewish influence in America. This isn't about me. I'm not making any accusations. I'm making an observation. And the observation is that Charlie Kirk had the minds, hearts, and souls of this Gen Z and Gen Alpha. And he flipped the switch and did a 180. He went from all in, full Christian Zionist to I am repudiating everything about the Israeli government and their influence in America. And he used terms that were at the time, even though it's just a couple months ago, quite shocking that the Jewish donors are falling into every stereotype that they fight when they deal with him. And he can't do it anymore. He said, I can't do it anymore. And what happened? I'm not saying the Jews killed him. I'm not saying Israeli Mossad killed him. I don't know either. So I'm not saying they did, I didn't. I'm just making the connection that this younger generation, before Charlie Kirk was assassinated, he would go to college after college after college, to Turning Point USA conferences and meetings, and all they would ask him, why are you all in on Israel? Why are you not America first? And it jarred him. There's not hardly any times that Charlie Kirk was kind of on his heels. Toward the end, before he died, he was backpedaling like I have never seen him before. I can remember watching it with my son, who's a very intelligent young man, thinks like his other friends. And he just said, Dad, he doesn't believe what he's saying. I said, really? Why do you think that? I never go, yeah, I always go, why? Why do you think that? Because, Dad, he's not articulate like he is. He's not fluid. He's very halting. He's almost doesn't really feel like, can I say this or can I not say this? Charlie Kirk's never done that. This new generation has no love, no affinity, no affiliation with Israel. None. And that is almost the proving ground to watch people like Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro. You see the insanity of Naomi Wolf coming after people and saying that we all have blood on our hands because some whack job Muslims kill people in Australia or the Brown University. And what you're seeing is their frantic response to normal questions. Normal people saying, wait a minute, I'm watching my mom and dad work several jobs. I listen to them. I hear them having that fear and panic. Do I have enough money? Am I saving enough? Can my son go to private school? Can we go to this camp? And then at the same time, these young children are hearing their parents or watching podcasts and shorts where they're saying, we gave another $900 million to Ukraine. We just gave $682 million to Israel on top of the $30 billion with a B in the last year. And they're asking the same questions now that everyone else in America is asking. Why are we doing that? And they're also coming in and they're questioning, wait a minute, I don't believe in any of the propaganda. I don't believe at all about 9/11. The moon landing is an absolute farce. A farce. Their brains are they're so much more dialed in than, say, I was. And that's because of the information. My information came from Peter Jennings, if I stayed up late enough, or the newspaper the Times-Picayune from New Orleans that I read in the morning. That was it. There was maybe as I got into my adulthood, that this phenomenon called Rush Limbaugh popped up. And then we had talk radio. But then it was commercial breaks, and so it was never enough of constant be able to challenge what I believe and compare and contrast to other thinkers and other people that are in this sphere. No, I didn't have that. These young kids do. And they look at the moon landing, for example, and they go, that's absurd. Those men were in a capsule for 3 days and they just popped out. Well, who opened the space container that got on the moon? There's this decompression. I mean, these are what they're saying. They're asking me, and I'm like, decompression? Hell, I didn't even think of that. Well, Dad, where's the gas? Where's the fuel that they had to fly back to Earth on? Well, damn, that's a good question. Well, Dad, that giant moon rover with look at the seats, Dad. They're like lawn chairs. And how did that get in that? Like, where did that come from in that space, whatever that is, with the tin foil? And I'm looking at my son. I'm like, well, damn, that's another good question that I don't have an answer for. And then they all laugh. His friends, I don't even prompt it. They just laugh. It's absurd. 9/11. Hey, Mr. Carroll or Coach JJ, did you ever hear about that Building 7? Yep, I've heard of that. That's absurd, Mr. Carroll, that it just falls down on its own. Yeah, it's absurd. It's absurd that the plane flew into the Pentagon and then it incinerated. It was so hot that they didn't even find anything. Yeah, it's like a plane didn't happen, right? Yeah. I can't believe, Mr. Carroll, that they think that old demented fool Joe Biden had 15 million more votes than every one other presidential candidate. Yeah. Isn't it crazy how Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro went all in for Israel? Yeah, but then Charlie Kirk changed his mind and went back and he was now America first. I find that strange. Yeah. So do I. They've lost that generation. It doesn't matter how much Mark Levin grabs a hold of Donald Trump and manhandles him on his Jewish night. It doesn't matter how fast Ben Shapiro speaks or how many times Netanyahu threatens us that you better do something for the Jews or we're going to hold you accountable. No matter what they say, no matter what they try to do, you're all going to die soon. It's just the truth. I'm going to die soon too. They're going to die of old age. Who's going to replace you guys? People that don't think like you. The Gen Zers and the Gen Alphas don't believe anything. And I'm going to later on in next in the 1 or 2, I'm going to show you that they don't believe in anything except Jesus Christ. Oh, that's a double whammy for the Israeli lobby and all of the elites that try to control everything that happens in the world and the propaganda. They don't believe anything, and yet they're flocking to the truth, Jesus Christ. This is not, I'm a Catholic and I'm a Christian. I would love to see all of these young children, young adults flock to the Catholic Church and to Jesus Christ and be a solid, hardcore, patriotic Christian. That's just my desire. The truth is, they're flocking to Christianity. They're not flocking to God, the Israeli God, the Jew God, or the Muslim God. No, they're flocking to the Christian God. Thus, Jesus Christ, the Holy Trinity. And that is what's driving them nuts. Because all of these young people are now coming out and having this realization that my generation, the generation below me, is coming up. We're not Judeo-Christian. We're Christian nation. Period. And they're repudiating all of the propaganda. From 9/11, the moon landing, Joe Biden, COVID, because their lives got destroyed by COVID. They see the transgender movement, the homosexual movement, the sexually perverse sickness that's gone across our nation, and they want none of it. None of it. You're going to see a America First revolution that we have never seen. And they are going to take over our nation. And here's what's going to happen. They're going to repudiate, they're going to shame, and they are going to move the sexually perverse back into the closets and the shadows and the dark corners, recesses of our nation. They're going to do that. You're going to see a revitalization, a revival of belief in Christianity, that Jesus Christ is the Savior. He's the only one. And you are going to see them systematically remove all of the non-Americans out of our country. They are going to do it because they're more bold than us. Because they've already in a young age seen the stupidity. They've seen the arrogance, the sexual perversion, the propaganda, and they don't want any of it. None of it. And that scares the powers to be. It scares them to death. And these young boys that are turning into men, they're never going to apologize as my father's generation and my generation and the mentally ill millennials. And they're never going to apologize for being who they are. Black, white, Hispanic, they're not going to apologize. They're going to know, they already know their history. They have access to everything at their fingertips. My son comes home kind of upset the other day, and he's just like, "No, Dad, I'm taught something. I don't believe it. Don't believe it." Okay, let's sit down. What is it don't believe? Well, we went through some American history. I go, yeah. You can't believe everything, son. You have to question everything. Question me, question your mom. Listen to us, but question. Don't just say, Dad said that's what it is, because it is. No. And I tell my son this. A lot of people think, oh, you must browbeat your son into being a little MAGA kid. No. I actually say the opposite. This is how it usually goes. We like to drive and listen to podcasts. Paul Joseph Watson, if you ever never seen him, great. We've gone away from Daily Wire and those people. Tucker Carlson, old ones. We watch the Whatever podcast. And I just let my son watch it, and he asked me questions. I don't ask him hardly any questions. He asked me questions, and I ask him, as like I did in my job, interrogating. I say, well, why do you think that? How do you think that this happened? Who do you think is involved in this? And then I let him do some critical thinking. And then he'll ask me every now and then, what do you think, Dad? And I will tell him exactly what I think in the harshest terms. And I did that. I had this being a father and my beautiful, precious son, there was a time where I hid a lot from him, and I erred on the side of innocence and beauty and life's great. And then I slowly introduced the real world. And now I'm flipping that innocence to the real world, because I only have 4 more years and my son will be out of my house, either being in a trade or going to college. So now it's a time that this is the reality, son. Life isn't roses. Life is very difficult. And then on top of being very difficult, if you add narcotics, alcohol, women, any the sexual perversion, your life gets complicated and it gets very difficult. And then it becomes unmanageable. And that's what's happened to our world. It has become unmanageable. And then when I'm watching these podcasts and I tell my son exactly what I believe, because I believe my son needs to hear the truth from me, and he needs to understand when I'm telling him something that I believe it, that I'm not bullshitting him, that I believe that he has the intelligence and the critical thinking to be able to have a discussion, open and honest. And I always finish when I get done telling him what I think. And I say, son, I don't demand that you agree with anything that I'm saying. All I'm going to ask of you is, if you disagree with me, then you need to be able to articulate exactly why you don't believe what your father believes or your mother believes. I don't want to hear about your feelings. I don't care. I love you with all my heart and soul, but when we're going to talk about real things, your feelings are going to be last, because the world's not going to give 2 rats' asses about your feelings. They're going to run you over. If you are about feelings and this is what I think and this is what maybe it should be, no, you need to hit them with statistics and why, and articulation why you believe Jesus Christ is the Lord and Savior, that he died on the cross and rose and resurrected in 3 days. He sits with the Father and the Holy Spirit. You have to explain and articulate why we need to follow the Constitution and how the Constitution has been bastardized. What are those amendments? Are we 3 branches of government, or is there the judicial branch that is over the legislative and executive? Of course not, but everyone believes it is. You need to be able to articulate it. And this is what Gen Z, this is the beauty of them. And I know there's a negative. There's nothing's always positive. There's a negative to having all this information. There's a lot of information that's incorrect. That is propaganda. And they have to sift through more propaganda, say, than we did. But they have access to challenge that propaganda. Where my generation, we had to have lived experiences to go through adulthood and go, that doesn't make any sense. That's a lie. My whole life, this is a lie. And they have access to that. That's what makes them so unique. That's what makes them make the powers to be absolutely frightened, scared to death. And the biggest thing is Gen Z and Gen Alpha are returning to Jesus Christ. And that scares them to death. I want to play this. I want you to, can you please play number 2 and talk about how they're growing up in social media fakery, and they just have an unquenchable search for truth. Watch this guy, just a minute long.
The other thing, Angie, you were talking about, whether things are genuine or not with teachers and these sorts of things. I have to tell you, the most widespread users of the technology, it turns out, are Gen Z, younger millennials and Gen Z. And I think they're ultimately, by the way, going to save our republic, because they are all about seeking the truth. They have grown up in a generation where people have been lying to them, exaggerating their lifestyles and social media, to your point earlier. Spreading misinformation. They've seen it all over. So there's a just unquenchable thirst for what's legit, what's true. I know that because I have a couple of Gen Zers in my family. And so I think ultimately that, that helps get to Andrew's point. I think people are ultimately looking for truth. And yeah, there are ways to dissemble and deceive using AI, but there's also equally and more profound tools on the other side to watermark and legitimize and to check sources. So I think ultimately that wins.
They have a desire for truth. We heard Eric Weinstein saying people won't even talk about 9/11 in public, even though they're talking ad nauseum in private. Gen Z is not talking, and Gen Alpha is not talking in whispers. They're calling out stupidity, lies, propaganda. They're calling it all out in real time. I want to play this. This is Benny Johnson. I'll set this up, Nick. Benny Johnson is saying the belief in God in Gen Z is 45%. To Gen X was 33%. Church attendance has risen to 24%. And you think, okay, 24%. Well, that's down from like nothing. So I want you, if you can please play, is that the right clip? I don't know if that's the right one. I don't think it is. Maybe I have the wrong. You know what? Let's go to number 4 then, if you don't mind, Nick, because I must have put the wrong link in there. If we can go to number 4. Yeah, this is a quick one, just talking about the across the globe. And this piggybacks on Benny Johnson's on when he was on. No, you know what? I think it was. I apologize. Can you go back to number 3? I think that's the show that he was on. Can you play that? Go ahead.
The 2 underlying causes for almost all of these tragedies and these attacks, all these problems.
Nope, that's the wrong one.
Now,
That's my fault, Nick. We'll just go to number 4. But what Benny Johnson was saying before this goes on is he was on a show on Newsmax, so I must have got a wrong clip. He was saying they're flocking back to Christianity. Why? Because they're desiring the truth. Everything around them is a lie. And this man's talking about the global reaction to the lies and propaganda. Just play this one for us, please, Nick.
Can you speak into the rise of young people in the church globally, and what are you seeing in that opportunity?
Well, this is really exciting, right? Gen Z is the fastest growing, probably Christian movement in 100 years right now. There's way more Gen Z people buying Bibles than anyone else
Yeah,
right around the world.
amazing.
It's an unexplainable phenomenon. I don't know how it's happened or why it's happened. It's God. God is pouring out his spirit on young men, young women, and they are rising powerfully.
Can you speak into the
Yeah, they are rising powerfully because they're desiring, they're needing, they're thirsting for truth. Let me read this. I don't like to read, and it's not that long, but I'm going to read this. If you can pull up the next one, my X post that I have, it's going to be from the blue collar intellectual. And Nick's just going to put it up, but I'm going to read it, okay? Because it's not a deep dive because it's pretty quick, but it really struck me when I read it because it really drives home the point, what we're talking about. And he says, this is a quote, why Gen Z is running back to God and why it terrifies the world. He goes on, for years, experts insisted Gen Z would be the most godless generation in American history, spiritual but not religious, raised on TikTok therapy, political chaos, cultural confusion. But somehow, something happened that no sociologist, no influencer, and certainly no Hollywood studio saw coming, and that was Gen Z is coming back to God in record numbers. He continues, prayer gatherings are erupting on college campuses. Worship nights are spilling into streets. Churches once empty are filling with teenagers and 20-somethings, desperate for truth, identity, and hope that culture could not give them. And the world doesn't know what to do with it because this generation was supposed to be lost. This generation was supposed to be unreachable. This generation was supposed to reject God forever. Instead, they're rejecting the lies that failed them. They've watched the promises of the modern world collapse, anxiety at historical highs, relationships falling apart, gender ideology crisis, depression epidemics, endless political outrage, and a digital culture that leaves them more lonely than ever. And in the middle of the wreckage, Gen Z is turning back to the one, capitalized, the one, meaning God, thing that actually answers the ache in their souls, Jesus. It is not random. It is not emotional hype. It's not a viral trend. It's a generational rebellion against a culture that told them God was dead. And the more they run to Christ, the louder the world panics because a generation on fire for God is something they can't control, they can't silence, and they can't program. The revival no one expected is already here, and Gen Z is leading it. I thought that was excellent. And he's right. And I want to focus. There are many things that I like to focus on. But I want like this. And the more they run to Christ, the louder the world panics. Think about it. Think about what is forbidden to say. We can talk about God and feelings and Judeo-Christian and Muslims. But when you mention this man, this being, this God by name, people freak out. They want you to whisper his name. The Gen Z and Gen Alpha are not going to whisper the name of Jesus Christ. They don't want to hear about your Judeo-Christian Zionist crap. They don't want to hear about your sexual perversion. They don't want to hear about 9/11, the moon landing, and the AIDS epidemic, and we're the police of the world, and we have to go kill all the people in the Middle East. They don't want any of it. And you can't program these young adults because they are going to be filled with Christ. And everything that you try to peddle them will go against everything that is raging in their soul, and their soul will win. That's why you see them so frantic. And when I mean them, I mean Satan's demonic demons, the demons that are butchering their children in their womb, the demons that are taking the children that survived abortion and then mutilating their bodies sexually. I'm talking about the demons that dress up in women's clothes as men and have sex with you little boys and girls. I'm talking about the demons that stole $38 trillion of our wealth and distributed amongst themselves into foreign nations. I'm talking about the demons that talk about there needs to be 197 genders, that men can have babies, that second graders need access, boys need access to tampons. It's as if Satan has shot his wad and thrown everything he has against the wall, and it was sticking, but now it's all falling down, and he can feel it. So he's becoming more aggressive, and you will begin to see the LGBTQ. You will begin to see the Democrat Party. You will be able to see the Lindsey Grahams that are bloodthirsty and want to go to war over and over and over again. They are going to get more frenzied. They are going to get more crazed. They're going to become more forceful and loud. Because why? Because the next generation and two are filled with Christ. Not filled with Mohammed, not filled with the Jewish Antichrist that they're waiting for, but our Christ, Jesus Christ, the Son of God. If you don't think that there is a spiritual war that's going on in this world right now, you are a fool, or you're scared to death and you don't want to acknowledge it. I'm going to bring my next guest in. I have him in every week. And every time he comes on, he and I talk about the products from Sat123. And I bring an article or a video. And one of these topics that me and Chris from Sat123 talk about are school shootings. And he has been coming on my show, this show and the one before I had almost, gosh, I want to say almost 8 months now, 9 months. And we have talked about school shootings once a month. You don't think there's evil? Do you know what type of person you have to be to walk into a kindergarten class, a public and private school, a high school, and now colleges, and just randomly just shoot and kill people? You don't think that's demonic? Do you not think, yes, they're mentally ill. Yes, they're on all kinds of all kinds of psychotic drugs. A lot of them are transgender. But this is a discussion for a bigger discussion later before I bring Chris in. But I believe this is listening to some great preachers and priests talk about this exact thing that we're talking about now. It's not as if the transgender just gets a demon. When you open that window and you just open that door or that crack in the window and you allow Satan to come in, he's coming in. He's not going to just stick his toe in that door frame. He's going to see that crack and he's going to kick it open like he's a SWAT team. And it could be the LGBTQ. It could be an adult man like myself that succumbs to pornography. And I click on that when I know I shouldn't, but I click on it. Guess what I just did? It's just not pornography. I opened the portal. And I listened to a priest that specializes in exorcism, and he was an incredible priest. Like he was in the business world and was a businessman and successful before he became a priest and turned his life over to God. And he said this, and it struck me so. And I was like, God, how did I never think of this? How did I not think of something so simple? And he said exactly what I just said, but much more articulate and much more backed by theology. when you make those poor decisions, you open the door, you open the portal. Why do you think our nation is struggling so mightily with pornography, with child sex trafficking, pedophilia, drugs, divorce, violence, murder? Do you think that that's just because we're making bad decisions and it's just a calamity of errors? Or do you think that if you believe in God, which I do, then there has to be an opposite? That's how he created the world. And there's Satan. And we're opening portals every single day through what we listen to on radio, what we watch on TV, what we watch on our screens. And this is what we're living in. We're living in a fallen world. And I want, when I bring Chris, if Chris is there, Nick, go ahead and bring him in, because I know this is a dark topic, right? Chris, thank you very much for coming. And I'm assuming, because I've seen you've been in here for about 5 or 10 minutes, you've been listening to what I'm saying and talking about how I brought you on my show for about 8 months now. And about once a month, Chris, you and I talk about the school shootings. And we talk about, well, it's not an if, right? Unfortunately, we would love it to be, well, if this happens and we can really eradicate it. You and I are, and I don't want to speak for you, but just from our past conversations, we believe that it's a when and how bad. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, unfortunately, JJ, you're absolutely right. I mean, I wish that I would come on here once a year, maybe at most, and just have to talk about this. But look, if you just go back in the last week, how many shootings have there been? I mean, from Bondi Beach to Brown University to MIT. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. It's absolutely sickening. But very sadly, you know, we are not safe wherever we are. No matter what your religion, no matter what your age, no matter, you know, whether you're at school, at work, you're on the beach, just having a vacation, celebrating a birthday or something. You know, there are people out there who, like you said, they are pure evil, and they're looking to kill people to make whatever sick point it is they're trying to make or whatever they want to do. But, you know, sadly, that means that products like that we make at sat123.com are necessary. And first, you know, I'd like to say, like, we're very proud of the bulletproof ballistic backpack that we make. We made it for all the right reasons, but you know, I also hate to have to promote it because I wish I lived in a society where you didn't need to give your kids a bulletproof backpack to give them a fighting chance of surviving a school day. You know, I feel like I'm speaking, like I'm watching myself in a bad movie, you know, when we talk about this. And one day I hope that, you know, there'll be no more need for this and no more demand. But, you know, unfortunately right now, I think it's very real. On any given day when you turn the television on, there's another mass shooting.
Yes.
And, you know, it's, my heart goes out to these poor people and their families and the victims. It's not just the people who are killed. You know, it's just like on Bondi Beach, multiple people, numerous people injured. And for what, you know?
For nothing. But for us to ignore evil and act like, well, this is normal. Like, I call it the normalization of chaos. This isn't normal, Chris. There's nothing normal about this. I want to play you just a quick video from our audience. My audience is really tuned in, but I really want to focus on what this Senator Tuberville is going to talk about, this young woman, I should say, that was murdered in the Brown University. And then I want to go back when you come back on, and you already mentioned it, the ballistic backpack. And I want to talk about that because I'm not saying that she could have survived, but maybe she would have, Chris. Maybe she would have had, at least she would have had a fighting chance, right? I believe she's in a school setting. We all carry backpacks with us all the time. So I want to talk about this product because my son goes to school with one. This isn't something that I'm trying to promote and I'll get affiliate marketing and blah, 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 blah. No, Chris, this is something I use. My son uses it every single day for now 2 school years since I started having your product on my show. So can we play this for us, Nick, just for a few minutes?
She also loved kids and spent much of her time babysitting and serving in Sunday school. She believed her highest calling was to be a mom one day. But the most important thing to know about Ella is that she was a devout Christian. She was very involved in her church, the Cathedral Church of the Advent in Birmingham, and was loved by everyone there. In her obituary, it says, not only did her personal faith shine out like a bright Christmas star, but she loved others as real people, not as objects. Ella loved God with her whole heart, and she loved people with her whole heart. The Reverend of Ella's church described her as an incredible, grounded, faithful, bright light who lifted up those around her. I can't think of a better legacy to leave behind than that. She went off to college at Brown, where she was studying French, mathematics, economics, and was obviously very, very smart. She also was a patriot who loved this country, and she served as vice president of the College Republicans at Brown University. She was clearly a very courageous young lady, and I can't imagine that was an easy job on such a liberal campus as Brown.
Chris, I played that as 1:30, but I played it because I want my audience to see that this is not a statistic. This is an actual beautiful young woman that was she's just starting her life, man. So I told my audience, I say this all the time, that my son goes to school with a ballistic backpack. And everyone, at first, when you hear that, you think, that thing must weigh 100 pounds. My son must look ridiculous carrying a ballistic backpack. Like they're thinking of a shield or something I'm going to wear as a vest. No, it looks like any other backpack, Chris. No one has any idea that it's ballistic backpack except my son bragged on everyone, said, look, I have a ballistic backpack. But, and I want to say this before I ask you to talk about the product, because every school year, my son is now 14, going to school, about the last month or two of school, I would hold my breath like that backpack's about to just be incinerated, like fall apart right in front of my face. But I don't want to go buy another $200 backpack for a month, right, at school. This I'm going on 2 years, Chris, and it looks brand new. And my son's he doesn't abuse his property, but he's a teenager. Sports, basketball, tennis shoes, skate gear, slamming it against the wall, whatever, just being a kid, a teenage boy. It doesn't tear. It's one of the greatest backpacks I've ever seen. So I want you to give just a moment to try to articulate to the audience that if you're a young college student, or you're my son going to school, or you're the little kids that were praying in the Catholic Church in Minnesota that got someone shot and killed, or you're the young students in the elementary school in Nashville that you get gunned down. It's a fighting chance, right? It provides a chance to survive. Am I correct?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct, JJ. That's why we made this thing. We designed it in cooperation with our friends in law enforcement and the U.S. military in San Diego. Some of our friends are in the SEALs over there, and these guys, like the law enforcement guys, they know, like what you can be up against with no notice. And we just got tired of seeing kids mown down without any chance of survival, without anything to protect them. But look, every time you see a school shooting, one thing you'll see the kids, when they're all running out, they've all got one thing with them. That's a backpack. Mm-hmm. And we thought, hey, why not make those backpacks ballistic, give them ballistic protection? Because they have the backpack anyway. They can hold this thing up and hold it in front of them, and maybe they can survive. They can have a lot better chance than without it. The bulletproof shields in there are rated to level 3A by the NIJ. That means it can withstand up to a 44 Magnum, a shotgun blast, or even 9mm automatic weapons fire. And again, it's horrific to think that you need this, but the sad reality is that you do. If you want real peace of mind, give your kid a backpack that could save their life. Again, it's $199. I know that money is tight for a lot of people, but you're going to buy a backpack anyway. You're going to buy a Christmas present anyway. Why not give the gift of life, of life-saving gift? You know, I think I wish we could give them away to every parent, mate. But we gotta stay in business ourselves. But look, we could have marked this thing up $400 or $500 and probably sold a bunch of them too. We didn't do that. We chose to mark it down as low as we could at $199, make it truly affordable. And you can get one today at sat123.com. You can order online and have it arrive in time for Christmas, or call us at God, the number escapes me. Sorry, my mind is just not there right now. But yeah, we're at sat123.com. The number is right there. But look, again, like you so eloquently said, you're going to buy a backpack anyway. These backpacks are built to last. They are built with the best stitching, the best materials. They also provide a Faraday shield inside there, which can stop your kids' data getting stolen. And unfortunately, we know there are many predators out there trying to hack into your kids' phones, your devices, track them, follow them, and goodness knows what. It's a scary place, but you can fight back. You don't have to be a victim. And we're very proud of this product, and we really appreciate you letting us talk about it, mate. And I'm so glad that your kids have them too.
No, Chris, I swear on this product. I know my audience knows that your company, Sat123, is your flagship product is your Sat phone, right? And generators and all down the line of being prepared. But I just wanted to hear about your backpack in light of what we're witnessing in our society today. And I believe it is a must tool. Unfortunately, I wish that we'd have this. When you're not here and I'm promoting Sat123, I actually say, I can't believe that I have to sit here and promote a backpack that is a ballistic shield to protect my son. Like, I let him go to school and I think, damn, he's safe with that ballistic backpack. And at the same time, the next thing comes into my mind is, damn, I live in a country where I have to send my son to school with an effing ballistic shield backpack. This is insane. It's insane. Chris, thank you. I pray that within the next month, you and I are not talking about this, but you and I know that we will. We will. It's just when and how bad is it going to be, unfortunately. Yeah. Pray that it's not, but it's probably going to be. If I don't, I will see you. Maybe I'll see you next week. If I don't, Merry Christmas. It's freezing cold here in Kansas. I'm praying it's colder for you in Colorado, but Merry Christmas, my friend.
Absolutely. Merry Christmas to you and your whole family, JJ. Thanks so much, mate.
Thank you very much, Chris. Chris from sat123.com/JJ, sat123.com/JJ. Great product, great organization all the way around. All right. Chris is a great guy. Great product. Call that number when you get to Sat123. I usually have it right here and I could just read it off, and I don't have it. Go to sat123.com/JJ. There you have a customer service line on there, and it's going to shock you because when someone answers it, it's not going to be an automated machine telling you to hit 17 numbers and then you're going to be in Bangladesh. You're going to hear an English voice. Just pick up and say, hello, Sat123. How may I help you? And you're going to be speechless because you haven't spoken to a real customer service individual live that is not Mary from Mogadishu. And it's great. Sat123.com/JJ. Something big happened the other day, yesterday actually. Dan Bongino comes up and says, I'm leaving. I'm resigning as the deputy director. I have a lot is an understatement. I have an incredible amount of passionate views about Dan Bongino, as well as passionate as I am and disappointed, angry. At the same time, I'm trying to pull back on those and give this man some benefit of the doubt. Like, what happened? I don't want to browbeat him. I don't want to beat him down because I don't know what happened. And I don't think that we're ever going to know. I listened to someone that I respect said, you know what probably happened? And we're never going to hear it because when he went into that job, they made him absolutely top secret clearance, the highest level, and they NDA'd him to death. Absolutely, they did. There is no way he's going to be able to talk about anything. And I think, and I don't know, I'm surmising, I think he just realized it is absolute a waste of time, that it's so corrupt. But then I circle back and say, well, damn it, why didn't you just say it, man? Because I put myself in his shoes, and I put myself in his shoes for a multitude of reasons. He's a former federal agent, Secret Service Uniform Division. I was in a uniform division in the United States Border Patrol. I was several grades higher than that gentleman, but we shared that commonality. I also looked at him as somebody inside law enforcement when he was out and growing his business. He is a wildly successful podcast, media. To just say he's a podcast guy is really kind of condescending. Not because podcasting is bad. I take great pride in it. But just to say that, oh, he just has a podcast. Well, his podcast got 10 times the daily numbers than CNN had for 24 hours. He rivaled what Fox would have. So this was not some guy that was rising up. This was the guy that was at the peak of it. He was the Joe Rogan, the Sean Ryan. But Dan Bongino is right there, if not above. Worth millions of dollars, making millions of dollars a month. Millions. And he left and he went to be a deputy director. And I put a lot of hope into that selection for him for the reason that I just said. He's coming from our world. He says the same things I say. He believes the same things I believe. He's unabashedly patriotic. If it was reversed and I was sitting in his shoes, he would be railing against me right now. He would be railing against me, calling me everything under the moon and stars. I believe that. And quite honestly, he would be right. But I want to hold back my true criticism because I don't know it all yet. And I want to give a man like that the benefit of the doubt. But I question a lot. Here's the first clip. This is Fox News when he first started. And I didn't like this. I didn't like this at all. Him talking about how much he's given up. I didn't like it at all. But let's play it.
I mean, I gave up everything for this. I mean, you know, my wife is struggling. I'm not a victim. I'm not Jim Comey. It's fine. I did this and I'm proud I did it. But if you think we're there for tea and crumpets, well, I mean, Cash is there all day. We share it. Our offices are linked. He turns on the faucet. I hear it. He's there. He gets in like 6 o'clock in the morning. He doesn't leave till 7 at night. You know, I'm in there at 7:30 in the morning. He uses the gym. I work out in my apartment, but I stare at these 4 walls all day in DC, you know, by myself, divorced from my wife, not divorced, but I mean, separated, divorced. And it's hard. I mean, you know, we love each other and it's hard to be apart.
But you're doing some great work. You're straightening out the FBI, you're moving buildings. There's a lot of change.
I got one more thing.
No more things. I don't want to hear you complaining because that's a far cry from this guy. Play this one, Nick. This is the Dan Bongino everybody thought was going to the FBI.
All my enemies out there, well, I am public enemy number 1. I give absolutely 0 fucks about what you think. I'm not kidding. There are no fucks left to give. I don't. I'm not looking to go to your cocktail parties. I don't want to be your friend. I will not hesitate to shred you. And if there's nothing you can say, you threaten me, I'll ruin your life. You'll ruin nothing. I have 0 fear of you at all. To liberals, I mock you, and I am absolutely determined for the rest of however long I have left to destroy everything you're trying to do. because you're trying to destroy this country. And braver men than me have fought for it. I'm not going to let it happen.
What happened? What happened? That's a far cry, my man. I'm going to play this video next. I played him on my show before. The language is bad, but I think this is the time of bad language. I don't like to use these words. I don't like to use them in mixed company. I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. I'd rather not hear curse words. But as my producer Nick has said, well, the age of not doing curse words, that's over with. We're in a war. I like this guy's take on Dan Bongino. And he seems conflicted a little bit like I am, that he doesn't have enough information. Just listen to him.
Honestly, at this point, who else isn't fucking surprised? Dan Bongino used to talk a big fucking game on his podcast. And I remember him saying, you always got to look out for those that talk a big fucking game, but once they get in a position of fucking power to do something about it, they don't. Now, don't misinterpret my fucking video. I'm not saying that he didn't do anything productive, but this is exactly where Dan Bongino was supposed to be fucking different. He was supposed to be the fucking bulldog America fucking wanted and needed. This is why we supported him and his fucking podcast. And I know, I'm already hearing it in my DMs. Well, Lou, maybe his hands were tied behind his back. Maybe the system is more corrupt than we ever thought it was. Yeah, fuck all that. This is why he was different. And this is exactly the fuck shit the American people are sick and fucking tired of. No accountability, no one brought to justice. And this is exactly why I said that the GOP and the Republican Party, if they don't get their fucking shit together, they're gonna lose the fucking midterms. And guess what happens when that shit happens? The second half of President Trump's fucking term is lame duck. Then nobody's gonna be held accountable for any of the fuck shit they've been fucking getting away with. And that right there is exactly what Democrats and fucking Republicans are sick and fucking tired of. What the fuck are we doing all this for? I said what the fuck I said.
Harsh. But do you feel it? Do you feel the anger? I mean, you could feel it. It's tangible. Like, it's real. There's nothing fake about this guy. There's nothing fake about people that are talking the way that we talk. People are just pissed because we know the truth. We know that there is sexual perversion, child sex trafficking, Epstein files, 9/11. We understand COVID, the stolen elections, and you continually give us nothing. We saw last night or 2 nights ago, Donald Trump's 18-minute speech. What the hell did I tune that in for that for? Well, what was that? I don't need a pep talk, man. You know what I need? I need gas to be around $2 a gallon and going under. I need the inflation to stop coming. I need to stop giving money to Israel and Ukraine and the rest of the world. I need people in jail for stealing an election in 2020. They even admit it. They just know that you're not going to do anything. I want people in jail for the Russia collusion. I want people in jail for COVID. I want Biden and his family that stole money and stole and sold America. I want them in jail. And nothing. And nothing. The saddest thing for Dan Bongino, and I said this before he went, when he decided to go. I remember having a podcast and I said, the reason why I believe that he's going to be successful is because he has more than anybody else. He has more to lose. Do you actually think he's going back to Rumble and it's going to have 3 million followers? Maybe he has a great splash the first week. No one's going to listen to him after that. I'm sorry. I'm not. I would like to think, in the face of tyranny, in the face of evil that I'm sure that he saw, that I would not bend a knee. Maybe I'll get my chance. Maybe I won't. But I think I would fight to my death. I just do.